I hope you're counting the seconds.
I am.
It's right now.
7 o'clock.
It's my honor to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Coastside County Water District this Tuesday, February 12th, 2019. And does this thing go off? No. Could you call roll, please? Thanks.
Yes.
Director Reynolds, Vice President Michelson,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Here.
President Coverdell.
Very present. And could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Vice President Michelson.
Absolutely, I don't understand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you very much. We now have public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Hearing none. Move to the consent calendar. It looks like Director Reynolds reviewed the
I
financial.
did, and I found all in order.
Great. Are there any items that any directors would like to pull from the consent agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Director Reynolds, seconded by Director Feldman, that we approve the consent calendar as presented. Could you call the roll, please?
Of course. Director
Yeah, here.
Reynolds,
Or yes.
Michelson,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
President Coverdell.
Yes, thank you. Meetings attended, director comments. Anybody?
I did have a BOSCA meeting in January. Again, a lot of closed session, Bay Delta Plan. Water districts have elected to sue the state. Other districts have. And some good news is the Restore Hetch Hetchy did not appeal their loss to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Wow.
So that one has evaporated. I'm sure they'll put their efforts into something else, but that lawsuit is now reached its end, and the others continue.
That's great news.
And I wish our former superintendent was here, because I wanted to ask, Los Vaqueros is kind of in the mix now as a potential local source, and that's Contra Costa, I believe. And I'll have to, next time I run into our former superintendent, I'll have to get the 411 about how viable that is. Yeah, that was it.
Great. I did some snow research, but I'm going to forego my report, which brings me a great deal of pleasure. But in deference to Kathleen, who works so hard and understands all these things about water and snow and storage and all that, I'm going to defer my report. But I can tell you that if you haven't been personally to see it, I would encourage you and recommend that you witness the freezer full of ice cubes in the High Sierra. And it's, I think tonight going to double, so it's pretty exciting. Okay, general business. Accept the Coastside County Water District basic financial statements and our independent auditors report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018. And we have a new auditor this year, so.
Last year.
Or last year, I'm sorry. So welcome back.
yeah.
We're so excited to have you here. Would you like to give your report?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Jeff Palmer, who is from Feedback and Brown. And he's the audit supervisor, and he was here in the fall conducting the audits. So,
Thank you very much.
and we have a PowerPoint.
Is it the same one that he passed out to them?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And it's in the,
Maybe there's the audience.
Don't you love a candy again? Isn't it nice? Good work. It's the simple things.
Yeah, I tell you, I know.
Okay. Is there a clicker?
Oh, there we go.
you'll have
Oh,
to
okay.
instruct the.
Okay, I will. All right, thank you. Thank you very
I'll
much.
try to read your mind.
All right.
If that doesn't work, tell me.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. All right. I'm here to present the results of the 2018 audit. Again, my name is Jeff Palmer with Vidak and Brown. And first, I'd like to say that our audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. To describe our audit procedures, we come out several times to conduct our audit. The first is our interim field work, where we assess the district's internal controls. We do this by interviewing staff and management
We do need
to gain an understanding
Thanks.
of the controls and the procedures. We then verify those controls are operating effectively through testing the accounting cycles, and we assess any risks and design our audit programs. We then come out for our final field work, where we perform substantive test work by agreeing balances to supporting documentation and testing those. We perform analysis of key relationships between the balance sheet and the income statement. Next slide. We issue several reports as part of our audit. The first is our independent auditor's report, where we've issued an unmodified clean opinion, which is the highest form of assurance we can provide. And it states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Coastside County Water District as of June 30, 2018.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is that the equivalent of good job?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you ever able to say good job or great job?
We
Or
do.
we
I've-
really appreciate the
I've
competence of the
definitely,
district?
I've definitely communicated that to Mary, so, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good, so there,
Yes.
thank you, thank you so
You're
much.
Okay, next slide.
What other classes are there besides clean?
I'm sorry?
What other,
What's the hierarchy?
what is the hierarchy?
Yeah,
What are the other
What's the next one? I never saw
It's
that.
unmodified, qualified, adverse opinions.
Oh, okay.
You don't want
I've not seen this
those.
term before.
Yeah.
in any
we
of
leave
the
those to
other-
one,
No,
Tara.
it's different.
What would modified mean?
Modified would mean that our opinion is modified due to certain circumstances, maybe a scope limitation, something that we were, trying to audit, but we couldn't see or couldn't get the backup documentation for, something material.
Okay, no, I just never saw this term. so.
The next
You use
report.
good job.
You heard him, I guess he told Mary directly, but we didn't get to hear it.
The next report's our management report findings, which we did not identify any material weaknesses within the district's internal control structure. Next slide. All right, so what is new this year is GASB 75. And in 2018, the Coastside County Water District adopted the provisions of GASB 75. This is to treat the OPEB liability for post-employment benefits. As a result, the district has recorded a one-time restatement to the beginning net position in the amount of $1.4 million approximately, and recorded the OPEB liability of $2.4 million as a long-term liability. The primary objective of this new pronouncement was to match the OPEB liability with the GASB 68 pension liability that's been on the books since 2015, and the use of deferred inflows and outflows as a result. Primarily, the liability historically was a lot smaller, and the attempt for GASB 75 is to bring it up to closer to what it should be at year end. Okay.
And if I may comment, that's the liability for our medical benefits that we pay out post-retirement.
Yeah, and so on that one, I have a question. My medical went up 15% this year, and you guys are using a 4% for a trend. How does that work?
4%, what are you comparing again?
No, you guys are using a healthcare cost trend of 4% annually.
Oh, yeah.
I wish mine would only go up 4%, so it's not a real number.
Unfortunately, I can't respond to that because that comes from the actuary who prepares that report and determines that liability.
Yeah.
So they're,
I will say for the district, our rates were our increases were pretty low this year in that 4% range, so. But I know that won't be the same for the future,
So it just, I wish we could lock in 4%.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So-
I think the other piece of this, with our medical benefits, as of back in 2008, the board ended medical benefits for retirees. So
Right.
this represents the employees who were hired before 2008, so.
And the last line over there on the corner at the bottom says that the total net position is $1,000,001 and change. What does that mean?
$1,000,001 is the change in net position, so that's actually an increase of net position by $1,000,001. Yeah.
So we've improved our position.
Improve the position even in result of, I was going to say, the restatement of net position, which took another 1.4 million off.
Wow. So we're doing a really good job.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yep.
Great.
Okay. So on this page, you'll see that the change in net position increased by 1.1 million. This was due primarily to an increase of 2.5 million from ongoing operations, which was offset by the effect of a $1.4 million restatement to net position due to the implementation of GASB 75. We can move to the next slide.
Yeah, no, we're doing really well.
On the condensed statement of revenues, expenses, changes in net position, you will see that the total revenues increased by 1.2 million to 13.4 million. Operating revenues increased by 977,000 to 11.9 million. This was due to increases of 1 million in water consumption sales, which is offset by a decrease of 38,000 in other charges for services from the prior year. Non-operating revenues increased by 230,000 to 1.6 million. This was due to increases of 144,000 in transmission and storage fees and approximately 96,000 in property taxes, which were offset by a decrease of 15,000 in other revenue. Total expenses, including depreciation, increased by 1.5 million to 10.9 million. Operating expenses before depreciation increased by 1.1 million to approximately 8.2. This was due primarily to increases of 335,000 in pumping costs, 476,000 in transmission distribution expenses, 523,000 in general administrative expenses, which were offset by a decrease of 209,000 in source of supply expenses. Depreciation increased by 315,000 to 2 million. This was primarily due to approximately 4 million in capital projects being capitalized between 2016 and 2017 and starting depreciation. Non-operating expenses increased by 76,000 to 737,000 due to increases of 76,000 in loss on disposition of assets and approximately 20,000 in collection fees from the county, which were offset by a decrease of 19,000 in interest expense on maturing debt. At the end of fiscal year 2018, if we can back up one slide, the district showed a positive balance in its unrestricted net position of 2.682377 million, which is available to be used in future years. All right, that concludes my presentation. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, short and sweet.
So this is the end of last June 30th of last June.
Yes, yes.
Technical question. There was a schedule of, there was a note in your appendix about adjustment of journal entries.
Yes.
I think I've seen that kind of thing before. Have we had those in the past? I may have
We
missed
have,
them.
but we
Yeah,
didn't include them last year, so I just
And
included
what
them
does
as
that,
part
what
of
does that
the.
mean? Technically, I'm just-
These were primarily the journal entries that they did associated with booking the OPEB entries and
Okay.
and the pension entries.
Oh, so you had to put them elsewhere?
Right.
They're the same entries, but in a different category, if you will.
Right.
Different place in the journal. Right? Totals are the same. Everything's the same.
Yeah, and
Okay. It's just making it align with what they did with GASB. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much. We really appreciate your coming and
Absolutely.
And thanks for being so open with your wording. We really appreciate that.
Sure.
It's taken 20-plus years to try to get a good job out of an auditor, you know? We've had a few.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Moving right along.
Excuse me, can we get a motion to accept that?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. We can. You heard, Joanne would love a motion.
I would like to make a motion to accept the 2018 audit results.
Yeah, I'll second that.
It's been moved that by Director Reynolds that we accept the Coastside County Water District basic financial statements and independent auditor's report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018. It's been seconded by Director Michelson, and I would really appreciate a roll call vote, please, Joanne.
Director
Yes.
Reynolds, Vice President Michelson,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
President Coverdell.
Enthusiastically.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item B on general business, the approval of EKI design contracts for Ferdinand Avenue pipeline replacement, Casa del Mar Main replacement, bless you, and Grand Boulevard Pipeline PRV loop. And that's a take it away, Dave, right?
Okay, these are two projects that are in our pipeline replacement CIP. EKI has been very responsive in providing us with design proposals to get these projects going. They're kind of putting an emphasis on pipeline replacement because those are the projects that require the least permitting and environmental documentation. And we know that we'd like to get these projects done and spend the money. So we have these two proposals for engineering. The Ferdinand Avenue pipeline replacement is replacing about 1,400 feet of welded steel pipeline. We're trying to, the welded steel is the oldest pipeline in the district. We're also removing a 4-inch welded steel that crosses Deer Creek. Creek crossings with welded steel are
Problematic.
Not Deer Creek, you guys know the creek.
Yeah, dear, I was trying to place that in my mind.
Yeah, it's up in, this says Deer Creek.
It
so-
does
It
say
could
that.
be, that's Obernata. Yeah, it makes for Ferdinand,
Wow.
yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Right, so it eliminates a creek crossing.
Where is it?
That's
Oh,
been
right
our,
behind, just north of my house, where Sterling has his canyon.
and Casa del Mar, a main replacement phase one, involves putting a couple of PRVs. Right, yeah, there's a, if you look in the staff report, there's a map in the staff report. It's a little hard to see Deer Creek, but it's a line of trees.
That was the original source of water for Obernata, I believe.
It's an old ancient pipeline, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the Casa del Mar main replacement. Casa del Mar is all cast iron mains. And our plan is to try to extend the life of those cast iron mains by creating a new pressure zone that will reduce the pressure in Casa del Mar. So installing 2 new PRVs and a loop along that parallels Highway 1 is part of that project. So this second proposal is for design of that, design and project documents for that project. The total cost of both is $57,500.
Input?
Now, question. I don't have it in my fingers, I probably should. The valuation of the total project in terms of construction of these two things, is it approximately what? In the capital plan?
I think Casa del Mar's 350, something around 325, 350.
How much?
For for the second one, in total cost, or in construction cost, 350.
And that's all of Casa del Mar?
Not Ferdinand.
No, this is just for the
Yeah, yeah.
PRV project.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it has to be a
And
deal.
Ferdinand's probably in the 300.
Yeah,
About 700K for both?
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and so his engineering costs are 57. And the construction services means that
This
they
is
will
super,
be involved during the construction,
Yes.
and the number that they'll charge us is in this
Right.
estimate.
yeah. No,
6,600 for one. and-
it
Whatever for them.
seems super reasonable to me.
No, I'm
It's not-
just checking, that's for
That's
the
not
actual.
construction management, that's just engineering services during construction. So if
Yeah.
there's a question
Construction manager is different.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
You ready for a
Comments?
motion? No,
Just one. I just wanted to compliment you on deciding to bring EKI in. And, get some of this quick engineering done so we
Yeah.
get these projects off the books. I would ask a favor, and that is, we've got these screens which are really nice. Maybe we could actually have the capital improvement program on the screen. So when we have a question like that, we can just fire it up and actually see it, just for fun. I mean, I think it's great that you guys remember it. You're both numerically amazing. So I know that you have great memories about it, but it might be nice to fire them up, just as a suggestion.
I would second your comment that this looks really good, and I would make a motion that we approve the EKI design contract for Ferdinand Avenue Pipeline Replacement, Casa del Mar Main Replacement Phase 1, and Grand Boulevard Pipeline /PRV Loop.
I'll second.
Isn't that great? I don't have to reread that again. It's been moved by Director Reynolds succinctly, seconded by Director Feldman. And could you take our vote?
I'll say
in roll
yes.
call?
Reynolds, Vice
Yep.
President Michelson.
Yes.
Director Feldman.
Here, yes.
President.
Yes. You almost said Michelson, I knew that. I watched that. Did you have a comment? No. That's great. It's wonderful to see that move forward. That was the goal, and I think it's great.
Yeah, Casa del Mar has been on the books for a long time. To see it move forward this is great.
Really nice. Item C, Bell Moon Pipeline Replacement Project. And,
Evening,
James,
board members,
would you prefer me to call you Mr. Durbin or James?
whatever you feel like.
Well, what's good for you?
You can call me James, you can call me Jim.
Thank you. Do you
As
prefer,
David says, just
do you
don't
like
call me
Jim or
Jim.
James? You like Jim or James?
Jim's fine.
Jim, take it away, please.
Okay, so this is the Bell Moon Pipeline Replacement Project. It is on our pipeline CIP program. It is about 800 feet of welded steel pipe, some of the oldest in the district. I think this was one of the original pipes that used to convey water into downtown Half Moon Bay. We have design and bid documents from Jim Teeter. We approached Andrini Brothers to bid on it, and the reason that we looked at that is because that is a heavily used area that they have commercial tenants on, and their yard is back there. So we thought if we got a fair price, we could have them do it. And the engineer's estimate is $375, Andrini bid it at $326. And we even had EKI review the bid documents, and they said with the current bidding environment, with the last 3 bids they've handled, it's pretty spot on and a very fair price. So it's nice that EKI did a review for us. We budgeted $310 for this project. We're a little under on the footage because of the current bidding environment in terms of our estimates for linear feet of pipe. And we would like to have the board waive the competitive bidding requirements of Resolution 2016-09 and contract on a sole source basis with Andrini Brothers based on what I've discussed.
Comments?
Yeah, I think another contractor is going to have a tough time bidding mobilization.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty safe on this one.
You can fall out of bed. I guess.
So do we have easements for this? Because that's a private road, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so do we have easements for it?
That ball's in my court. We're working on it. I'm working with our district council on that issue. Of course, we have existing easements, but we're putting the pipeline in a new alignment. So at the moment, we're trying to determine where the existing easements are, whether they can be exchanged. I've talked to Bob Sens, who owns the hardware parcel.
Yep.
He's amenable. It benefits the hardware because this will replace their main water service and their fire protection source. And the Andrinis have assured us that they will give us whatever property rights we need to install the pipeline. So we're going to research the easements. We may, rather than describing the easements up front, go in under the kind of right of entry permit we used with the Cosolinos, where we know we're going to put the pipeline and we put it in and we survey the alignment afterwards, that keeps us from having to resurvey and re-describe the easement if it has to be rerouted to avoid a storm drain or a sewer or something like that. So we're working on that, and that's my task.
Okay. All right.
So this affects Hassett Hardware as well?
Yes.
And all those guys on the left side of the road, the right side, Napa, it affects them too, right?
Yes.
Everybody on that street. pretty much.
Yeah, everybody.
Those are all Andrini tenants.
Yeah.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
So the easement discussion's not with Andrini? So-
It's with, both with Sens and with Andrini.
And
Yes.
that's because it won't be exactly in the same
Right.
location, because the other pipes they're gonna put.
Right. There's-
You don't
on
see
the-
any.
On the side where our
surprises.
current pipe is located, there are now sewer, gas, and
Mhm.
electrical that may not have been there when the pipe was put in originally.
It's considered a modification, right? So it's not a coastal commission issue.
It's exempt.
Exactly.
It's just, yeah, because it's just a
No,
replacement.
that's what I thought, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And this is better than the alignment down the high school driveway?
Well, we have that too. This is the
Okay.
pipeline that serves all of these businesses and the hardware.
When EKI said that they'd seen 3 bids and this one was it bids for us or bids for Andrini doing other work? I'm sorry.
I think it
You
was
said they were very
bids
positive
over the hill in the Bay Area that they're
for
looking
similar,
at.
and this was very consistent with it.
Yes.
My only concern, of course, is that it's not bidded, so.
For the cost per foot of ductile iron pipe,
I just wanna-
they said it was right on.
Mhm.
They had there were some minor differences. They cited the cost of a couple of fire hydrants as being a
No,
little
there
bit
are many
high.
reasons to.
But overall, we think it's reasonable.
It's a reason why, it's probably the best approach. It just has Andrini's name all over everything, so it just makes me concerned that people
So,
think there's more to it than just, we decided that these guys were the best guys. You know, it's just the thought I have, you know, not substantiated by anything, but they're good, they do good work, and this happens to be in their home court, which makes it a lot simpler for us to just let them deal with it. I mean, I understand.
This is an extremely busy access road, and most of the traffic is Andrini, almost all of the traffic is Andrini traffic or their tenants' traffic, and to bring an Andrini competitor in there to try to do the work seemed like not that great an idea to
I want
us.
to make sure people understand that this probably couldn't be done any cheaper by anyone else, because as he says, their proximity is
Right.
no setup time, they're right there, and they walk across the street and do this. So I'm just trying to be sure we say that, so the public understands that that's definitely going to be the best game in town, no matter what we did, okay? Thank you.
Did you have a comment?
yeah, so we're not running pipe on private property, are we?
Yes.
So why don't we run our pipe to the property line and the client pays for we put the meter there and the client pays for the property? I mean, you didn't run it into the door of my house, you ran it to the street easement and then put the meter and said I had to pay for the pipe into my kitchen. So could you explain to me the difference between my house and this job?
That's it's a pre-existing main.
That doesn't make it right.
It's there because it was the original line bringing water into the distribution system. We used to have an easement that went all the way up to Carter Hill. We abandoned the part that went through Andrini's yard there, the upper yard. So it has been a district main for 70 years. And
But if my water line to my house fails, you're not gonna come out and say, oh, Glenn, you've had that for years, we'll fix that.
there are many district mains that go through private property.
But this doesn't go through, it serves them.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, it seems like this is like replacing the service line to the Andrini property and they should pay for it.
It's replacing a district-owned main. So that's replacing a district-owned main with a district-owned main.
So where's the
That's
meters? Are the meters on the property line or are they inside the property?
They're
line?
off they come off the main.
Inside the property line.
It's all in private property, other than the easement.
Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, how would you explain that to another constituent who says, hey, why didn't, Barbara's Fish Trap, we made her replace that service main to her house. So I'm not understanding why, in this case, we're gonna put out $300,000 to replace a private service line, whereas in another business, we said, nope, you gotta replace that. And I get it that it was put in originally, and that's fine. I'm not asking for the money back. I just don't understand it, why we're gonna spend the future money.
Would Strawflower be a good example to look at in that sense?
Those
That's
are
private
all
property.
district mains within Strawflower as well, yes. There's a number of
there's
areas that are
precedent for that.
analogous.
It's precedent, I mean.
Yeah.
Isn't that a scary one, though, that
They were
somebody
installed
new
as-
comes along and says, hey, I want you to run your 8-inch main up to my front door?
Right, the New Leaf Shopping Center. There are a number of cases where developers have developed mains as part of their development and deeded them to the district. We have sections of Maine going through easements and private property, even in Pacific Ridge. So this is part of the district's distribution system. If this were bare ground and not a public road and Andrini needed the water, we might make them put in a mainline extension at this point if we're a new main. But it's
But
been
it isn't a public road.
It's been
Well,
our
it is
practice.
because the public
Well,
use it.
It's a
But
private
it's-
road.
it's
It's
a
been our
private
practice
road.
to replace district-owned mains. It's a district-owned main. The existing main's a district-owned main and a district easement, and it needs to be replaced. And that's typically what we do. In Strawflower, we just replaced a district-owned main, almost all on private property. So we do have quite a few district mains
Precedent.
in and serving private property.
Patrick, do you have any comment?
I think Dave's got it right. I mean, one of the things we haven't looked into is after something's constructed and the district's owned it for 70 years, whether we can then just abandon our responsibility to serve through that main. If it were new property, I think the districts, we have development agreements, and it's the responsibility of the developer to construct the infrastructure and then deed over portions of it to the district, and then it becomes our main, and then it's our responsibility. I didn't look at the history of this, but as Dave's described it, if it was our main to provide water from Carter Hill down to us, we've owned this main for a long time. And so it would typically be our responsibility to replace the main. Director Reynolds' question is an interesting one. It's like, okay, well, if you've done it and we've changed our use, can we then abandon that responsibility? I don't know that as we sit here tonight, but that would be very unusual to do in certainly other circumstances.
We have another analogous district-owned main that serves the Muller property. The Mullers paid for the construction of the main, which has a fire hydrant at the end of it. There are no private fire hydrants. So the Mullers paid to construct the main, and they deeded the main and an easement over to the district. So there are numerous instances where the district owns mains on private property that have been installed by the owners and deeded to the district, and at that point, the district assumes responsibility for their maintenance.
And who actually owns the meters that distribute to all these
We
buildings?
own all the meters,
We own all that, right?
yes.
So this pipeline feeds our meters.
We own the
and they're
meters, we
on
own the
property.
service laterals.
They're on the property.
Right, we own everything up to and including the meter.
I'm highly attracted to the idea that in our contracts, installation contractors have to indemnify us and protect us in many ways. So I'm extremely attracted to the idea that the owner's going to be taking that responsibility. And I would not like to be in a position where it was another contractor who was doing a contract and indemnifying us on Andrini's property after successfully winning the bid. So I'm fairly attracted to that aspect of the project. I think the price is fair.
Right.
you know, we could certainly table or stall or whatever and do legal research. I'm not sure that there's value there, but, you know, you guys can tell me what you think.
I've been swayed by the argument, so I'm cautious that I don't want us to look like we're doing something for one customer that we wouldn't do to another. And I think when there's a water line on private property that we're maintaining, I think it's really important that we be extremely careful that there's 100% transparency and no question that there isn't a special treatment. And I'm specifically concerned in this case because Andrini does a great deal of work for us, so we write them a lot of checks. And so I think that this is a case to be incredibly careful that our actions are thoughtful and easy to understand by the public. At this point, I'm satisfied with the explanation and think we should move forward.
No, I think this was a valuable discussion,
Okay.
and
I
thank you
think
for
makes sense.
bringing it up. And I think clearly, in the eyes of the room here, that there was enough daylight shed on this subject, and I'm comfortable moving forward.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the Bell Moon Pipeline Replacement Project.
Do you mind reading the whole
Oh,
recommendation?
I made a mistake. Okay, a recommendation, determine that waiving the competitive bidding requirements of Resolution 201609 and that contracting on a sole source basis with Andrini Brothers Construction to replace 785 feet of 12-inch welded steel water mains is in the best interest of the district project, and authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Andrini for the replacement for a total not to exceed $326,410.
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded, moved by Director Feldman, seconded by Vice President Michelson, that we approve as stated. Would you call the roll?
Director Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Michelson?
Yes.
Director Feldman?
Yes.
President Coverdell?
Yes. Thank you very much. And I would be more than happy to direct staff to work a little bit with our attorney to maybe, you know, go a little bit further into understanding and thinking about that for future situations to protect the interests of the district. I think it would be a great investment of a little research, and assuming that the general manager would be working with our attorney. I think it's very intriguing. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jim.
Sure.
Are you rolling on the next one? Okay, so the next item is the Crystal Springs pump control valves.
Good evening again.
Take it away.
The Crystal Springs Pump Station, as you know, pumps very high up to a hill. We have 300-plus pressure down at the station in order to get it up to the Cahill tank. So there's check valves at the discharge of each pump, and these are metal face check valves that have some shock absorbers, kind of like piston shock absorbers on the side. And there's been problems with leakage, so when one pump is running, you got some water leaking back down into the caisson while one pump's on. Also, when you shut the station down, there's a little bit of leakage from the pipe, the water that you've already pumped into this pipeline and pressurized that comes back down. So a little bit of pumping water in a circle. So I worked with John Davis and staff, and we came up with a solution where we'd install clay valve pump control valves, which are pretty common on like a well, a large high GPM well. And they're hydraulically operated, and they have a rubber diaphragm in them, so it would be rubber seating on a stainless trim inside. So we believe that this would be a good solution so that we're not leaking water back into the caisson. I think staff made a couple attempts of fixing the metal face check valves, and the rep from the swing check valve company was attributing debris, raw water, and perhaps even cavitation that was pitting the faces of these. So they replaced the internals of the valves several years ago, I think back in 2008, and then within a couple years, they started leaking again.
Wow.
And they got cleaned up again, so we think this is a good solution. District staff will install the valves. We'll have Calcon run the wires and integrate with the PLC for controls. And we solicited 3 quotes from different vendors so that we got good pricing. And Core and Main was the lowest bidder at $80,910.
You know what light
tax.
those gaskets is?
Yeah, I do.
Are there questions?
No, well, I was going to make a comment. So when you asked about directors' meetings attended, I actually went through the Clay Valve Academy training in LA. The valves are poured and cast in California. The service rep is out of Livermore. This is the best brand control valve made, and it's really great. I dug one up a couple years ago that had been buried for more than 50 years, buried accidentally, and was in perfect working condition.
Wow.
So I think this is a really smart choice, and I think you have my wholehearted endorsement of this project.
Thank you.
The 3 valves that were there were not clay valves?
No, I think they're Valmatic is the
Yeah,
brand.
The GP. No,
We had
it's
those-
true.
We had those in
No, I
Fort
just
Ord.
asked, they were
They're-
different valves, right?
Valmatic sells on one thing only, price. Clay Valve sells on local design and build and reliability and longevity.
So we're using a different vendor for the
Yeah.
valves, that's all.
Yeah.
It's a fundamentally different kind of valve as well.
Yes, yeah.
Were the original valves guaranteed, warranted in any way, so when they started leaking?
Oh, I'm sure they were
years?
for a year, but
I
after
don't know.
that.
Expired
Yeah.
in 72.
I've even had the Valmatic support rep tell me to replace them, which says a lot about the
Okay, well, I'm.
product.
He's
Okay,
now
well, it
working for
sounds like
Clay
we're going the
Valve.
right way now, right? Going the right direction this time, so that's good. Saves you a lot of labor and harm.
And I'd like to thank the staff for being willing to change them themselves. I really like it that we do work instead of farming it out, so I would make a motion to, are you we ready for a
Is the
motion?
Calcon 15K additional to the Calcon open contract we have with them for stuff? We have an existing agreement with Calcon that includes a number of things, up to 125,000, I don't remember what it was. This is separate from that. This doesn't come out of that reserve. I'm just asking.
We'll have to review that reserve. You get a report.
Yeah, I know, it was in here, and I
report
just,
package as a report.
it's in the consent
Generally,
calendar.
when,
I'm just asking.
generally, we track these as part of the CIP project, when it's an element of a CIP project. So we,
You can check and
So-
see, I just thought, I
Yeah.
wonder if there was reserves in what we had in
this
there.
is not a budgeted CIP. This
Okay.
is not in our CIP budget.
Because they have a pretty
So
nice
we'll-
contract with us,
We'll just tag,
125 or,
we'll make this part of the CIP project.
Well, this is 96, so that'd be the lion's share.
no, it's
of that.
15, it's only 15 to calculate.
Oh,
It's only 15 to calculate.
Right.
No, I'm not talking the 96.
oh,
I'm
okay.
talking their
Yeah, I got you.
participation.
I got you.
Is it possible to pull it out of their
Ready? Okay.
ongoing agreement with us, that's all. If not, then it's not.
I'll make a motion to authorize staff to purchase 3 12-inch clay valve model 60 AN pump control valves for a price of $80,910, hire Calcon Systems in the amount of $15,068 for conduit wiring installation and PLC integration for a total cost of $95,978. Gonna get valve stem indicators on those?
Yes. With the dual micro switch, so we know what position it's in.
Perfect. Hold out for the special clay valve screwdriver.
Do you want a second
I'll
before you
second
ask a
the
question?
They have one. It's really cool.
It's been moved.
For each of us.
It's been moved by Director Reynolds, seconded by Director Feldman. But Director Feldman has a budget question. You still
No,
looking
no, I
for
was
it?
looking at the Calcon agreement in here,
It
Oh,
will,
you good?
and to see if there was any reserve left, that's all.
I don't want to ad-lib an answer to that. We'll follow up with
Would
an
you?
answer.
That's all I'm
Yes.
asking.
Great.
If it's not able to be covered in this because it's all spoken for, I understand. But this, it's a pretty sizable little agreement, as I checked it on here. And I thought maybe there'd be a few bucks left.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think you ought to watch that carefully. I appreciate it, yeah. And
Would you like-
Joanne, now that we have the other directors trained to read the motions as we need them stated, I won't reread the motion, but could you take roll call?
Director
yes.
Reynolds, Vice President Michelson?
Yes.
Director Feldman?
Yes.
President Coverdale?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And that leads me to the next item on our agenda, which is consideration of the next steps in the process of filling the director vacancy created by Director Glassberg, who I think we all miss, did a great job for the district. And so I hope we're able to arrive at a great decision as to how and where and when to replace him. And if you could kind of summarize a little discussion first, would you like to, or should we?
Sure, I can do that. At the January meeting, we had Director Glassberg's resignation. He sent us a letter, the board president a letter, and at the end of December announcing that he would be leaving the board effective January 31st. We summarized in the staff report, which is attached to this staff report, the procedures surrounding filling a vacancy. Staff has provided the required notice to the county of the vacancy. The board has 60 days from the effective date of the vacancy to appoint a director or to call an election, if that would be your option. We went over those options, and the board voted on January 12th to fill the position by appointment. And I think informally asked that the vice president and the board president review the applications. Let me back up a little bit. You authorized and directed the staff to issue a notice of vacancy, which we did the next day. We took application statements of interest and qualifications through June 25th. That was the date on the notice. We had a little hiccup when the review published a notice saying that we were taking applications past, and that was past the deadline. We got one application based on that, on that notice in the review, and we decided that we would put that applicant into the pool just as we did the rest. So you have a list of 9 applicants, and it's up to the board to decide what the next steps are.
So with the board's permission, I was thinking that if there were people attending tonight who had submitted papers with a request to be considered for the vacancy, I think that it would be great to have them speak if they want to and address us, and then we would have our discussion about how we might proceed. I just wanted to do it out of respect because these gentlemen have taken their time, and maybe they'd like to laminate on their resumes or their applications. And so would you like to speak, one or each, or both of you, or? And you want to go alphabetical, so Les DeMann would go first, and John Mueller would go second, or would you guys like to flip a coin? We can do that. Thank you for attending. Thank you.
Well, my name is Les DeMann, and I have applied for the open board position. I submitted my data, my biography, and I guess I can summarize that briefly. Number one, I'm interested because I think I can add something. My education background might be useful. I'm an economist by training. I've operated both in the public sector and the private sector, and I'll go into maybe some small detail on that. I've also served the public in several ways. For the last 10 years, I was on the Planning Commission in Half Moon Bay, and I just thought about that. Way back, about 40 years ago, I was actually on the Enchanted Valley Water Board in Cypress, Texas. My long time ago was kind of slipped. But anyway, my background in terms of issues that I think might be helpful, I've been involved significantly in strategic planning, both in the public sector and private sector. So I'm able to kind of take factors, apply them for the long term. I'm familiar with rates, regulation, public policy. A good portion of my work experience was for pipeline companies, natural gas pipeline companies and oil pipeline companies, where we had similar issues. I mean, on a much larger scale, but as far as rates were concerned, we had to do cost of service studies. We had to make presentations to public agencies in order to get rates approved. So this is, I guess, an area that I think I at least understand, not, of course, details that you have, but on a broad basis. Also worked for the Texas Railroad Commission. Now, you think railroad, trains, no. Texas Railroad Commission is in charge of all the oil and gas pipelines in the state. And I was a director, I was the assistant director of policy, so I got involved in policy issues. I mean, I'm interested in obviously doing public service since I have. I want to continue to do that. And hopefully I have the certain attributes and experience that you might find useful. And if you do, I'd like you to appoint me. Or if I don't, I'm sure there are 8 other candidates that would love to be appointed. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back in the building. I would like to compliment the board and the district and the staff for bringing forward the amount of interested parties that really are looking at this position. I think that's a real tribute to how well the district is being run. And so I stepped down from government after 40-plus years, 2 years ago, for elder care. One's still with us, and he is a past chair of this board also. But we're ready to step back up and serve our community as I have for the last 50 years. When June 17th, I left Half Moon Bay 2 days after high school and went to the Navy and off to Vietnam in August of '64. So I'm still ready for that. I keep track of our water world out there, and you know, there's a number of huge issues facing water districts, as you mentioned earlier in the meeting. A number of districts have filed lawsuits. SFPUC, which is very valuable to this district and has a great history and a neighbor. But there's others. There's, you know, AB 72 in 2017. This affordable housing issue will be facing all of us in communities in California that we're going to have to really look closely at to provide water services to, I would imagine. The other one is 517, that is the groundwater basin and sub-basin Sustainable Groundwater Act. That's going to be really interesting for people that are pumping wells with. And there's 517 basins and sub-basins in the state of California right now. So we do have some experience. I was appointed by 4 different governors for 21 years on the Bay Area Water Quality Control Board for about 7 million people. And I always would comment to SFPUC, we'd give them a plaque 1 month and a fine another month. So we do have some experience with water deliveries, but I think the district has been running very well. And but there's always issues facing all of us, and infrastructure is very important. And I can remember photographing and taking with Richard Kurtner when we were trying to build that El Granada pipeline, and thank goodness we found a horrible piece of steel out there. And so I felt they did a very good job, and I have enough energy to come back and serve here. I live pretty close, and you have a great pool of interested parties that want to do it, but if asked, I'm willing to step up and serve, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Did we vet it, that all the candidates live in the district?
Oh, yeah.
We did. Okay, good.
So they all sit, I got this.
Look like it.
Okay, just checking. It would
That's a
be
good
awkward.
question.
It would be awkward
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
hadn't asked.
Oh, yeah. So anybody
I'd like
have
to-
suggestions or input?
I'd like to make a suggestion, or at least.
Please.
send my thoughts. As John noted, unless we have a total of 9 interested individuals in this position. And that's gratifying to know that we have that many people who are interested and willing to serve on the board. In that regard, the variety of their backgrounds and experience, including candidates with prior service on the board, is quite broad, to the degree that it's not obvious from me, just from reviewing their paper, that I can make judgment without further information. So my preference is to better understand who they are by setting up an interview process to talk with them individually in the near term, as quickly as possible, because time is of the essence in terms of filling the position. So, in order to do that, I had thought that there was a model previously where the HR committee, I think Chris was part of it at that point, set up an interview process with approach to how we would do the interviews, and then we set a date, have the people in, and then discussed, talked to them and met with them and had a meeting thereafter and made a decision. So I think I would like to sort of see if we could go in that direction at this point, at least that's my view. And I would like to, suggest that we do that early, as soon as possible, like next Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Get them in, talk to them, and see if we can come to grips with the quality and the nature of the individuals, and then make a decision as to how we wish to pursue it. But have a process by which we do this, and I know that Chris has some experience in that. And I'm on the HR committee now too, so I'd be happy to set that up with him and figure out how to make this efficient and appropriate for the people involved. So that's my thought, and for consideration.
Okay.
I could certainly play a role in assisting my fellow board member in facilitating. I think we've done it, it's my third, if not fourth time.
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
But I would certainly yield to the thoughts of the chair.
Right.
I think that's what I expected, and that's what I was assuming we'd do. I think as I sat here today, I was surprised that we only had 2 of the candidates attend today's meeting. There's a devilish side of me that says I'd love to just take a vote now. We have the resumes, we've read them. I'll follow, join the rest of the board in the normal procedure.
Well, the question I would have is, let's say that you guys were able to coordinate and review in the HR committee. So you 2 are the members currently of the HR committee. Would you hope to interview them or simply review the resumes
No, I'd hope
together?
to, my goal is to interview them.
To interview.
Yeah, no, it happens. I'd ask staff to set up a date,
Yeah.
like next Wednesday or Thursday or Friday.
I don't think,
We gotta do this.
I'm not sure you get 9 people together that soon.
Well,
so
we have
that's-
to, or set up 1 or 2 slots, sessions. We already have 2 folks giving us some insight into them, and I feel it appropriate for others to have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's done in public session, in a special meeting with, cameras and things or not. But I think everybody should have a fair shake at giving their input and telling us their story. And we should set a date for it, see how many we can get, and then decide do we have to have a second session.
Yeah.
But try and get
Well,
all through
the
as
HR
quickly as
committee,
possible.
the HR committee is a standing committee, so it has to be publicly noticed, that
Right.
meeting.
Mhm. I think it's fair
so-
in terms of the interest by the public in how we approach our business and making our decisions, and this is a time we think we need to be open and transparent.
So my question is, at the end of that HR committee interview,
No, we're not gonna, the whole staff wouldn't do, I'm sorry.
Oh, the
This
whole
would be a
board. You
special
want a
meeting,
board
a
meeting.
board.
okay, I misunderstood.
No, no,
I-
no,
Well, that's different.
No, no, this
Now
is
we're on
not.
a different,
Yeah, historically, it's been the whole board.
It's the whole
Yeah,
board. No, no,
okay.
we will set the
I
process to
misunderstood.
try and establish the order and whether we need 1 or 2 sessions. But then the whole board sits in for 3 to 4 hours, whatever
okay,
it
now,
takes.
now we're in a different program. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
No, that's not, I didn't mean, no, I'm not, he and I just discussing.
Well, you were talking about HR committee review.
No, we'd do the process for the interviews and establish how we would.
Oh, how the
we would do
interview
the
would go.
question. I meant
Oh.
the process of doing the.
You were
board
talking
interviews.
process as opposed to.
Yeah, he's already done that twice, I think, so.
Well,
Process.
my concern,
Yeah.
which isn't that big of a concern, is just timing. And so, I mean, I don't know how quickly that can happen.
Well, I was
You know,
suggesting we do it quick, like next week.
Yeah,
We have the interviews.
one of us might be quickly up in the white stuff. In the-
Well, we gotta get some dates from everybody as to what's going on. We
Right.
have till April 1 to make the final decision.
You have
Well,
until
we have-
April 1st.
we got
But
plenty of
We
time.
need to do it sooner.
Yeah,
We have to start soon and get it done, and in case there are some delays here and there. But
yeah, yeah.
No,
So,
I think it has to be sooner rather than later. We have to make a stab at a date, see if we can get the board people there, and go for it.
Yeah,
And
okay.
staff would set that up, and we'd talk to staff,
cool.
Chris and I, on how we would approach the interviews and how the questions would be posed individually, or whatever we want to do. That's how
Well-
it's been done in the past. Chris has experience with that.
Yeah, well, I'm fine with it. I personally would try to shoot for 25, 26, or 27 to make sure people have adequate
Okay.
notice and
I'll ask
time.
Dave to set, what, you know,
Yeah.
I think it has to be soon, but reasonable. 25, 26, 27 is fine.
Have adequate time to, you know,
Right.
get set up to come in, if we're going to do interviewing. And the way it's gone in the past, that I thought was pretty effective, was each director came in with a question. And then that's what happened, is individually, the people came in and we posed the questions and got the results, and then we were
Right.
able to kind of field and discuss it.
I agree, no, whatever the
Cool.
the protocol was in the past.
Yeah,
I think it worked well
all right.
in the past when I was involved with it, and I think it worked well when Arnie was selected and Hannigan was selected. So again, it gives everybody the opportunity to present their wares.
Sure.
We get to know more
Sure.
about the folks that have
Yeah.
applied,
Yeah.
and at least I'll feel better when the decision's made that I had all the information.
Yeah.
That's my,
Yeah.
does that make sense? I mean, well, it's my opinion.
Well, why don't you make it a motion, and then we'll go forward with that if it's
How do you make a motion?
second.
Is that a motion or just,
Well, it could be, sure.
is that the interest of? the-
Yeah, we want to make a motion, of course.
I move that we set up interview schedule for the candidates, for the full board to participate, that the HR committee established a process for that interview session, including one question per director, and how rating would be made if we have any way of scoring and things like that. And make that available to the board before the interview session.
Okay.
And go from there. That's what, however I said.
Did you get that all written down? I'm just
Can you-
curious.
can you
It was about 3.5 paragraphs. on
Want to
it.
have
Not a magic
interviews as
pen.
soon as possible, and
Can you read
we'll set
that
up the
back?
process personally. I didn't write
Need
the
a second, or we can't even talk about it.
Maybe I can synthesize that motion a little bit.
Sure, would you?
Because there's a lot of detail in there, and I think some of the detail is the detail that the HR committee
Correct.
should really work through.
Right.
That's correct.
So the process would be to have the HR committee meet to determine what kind of process would be used and make a recommendation to the full board at a special board meeting that would be set at some point that all the directors could make it.
Well, except it can't just be a recommendation, because then we have to have a meeting to receive the recommendation and decide.
Yeah.
Then we've got to set a meeting to interview the
No, I
candidates.
didn't mean, I didn't.
And then we've got to make a decision, so, you know,
So I
my,
missed what the.
I just want to empower the HR committee to
I think you were succinct, but
establish.
Maybe I'll sit back and let the directors make
Hey,
the
why don't we tell
motions.
them
The way we did it
Yeah,
in
that's how we did
2012
in the
was
past.
the HR committee got together and drafted an interview rubric, protocol, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
for a presentation to the board. At the special meeting where we had scheduled the interviews, the board members came in with the draft of that protocol. There were a
Right.
few comments. It got modified and the board voted to
Do you still have
approve it.
that?
Yes.
It's at the same meeting.
Dust it off.
We could direct you to dust it off and
Be a
save a
good place-
step.
Yeah, we
Sure,
can
it'd be a
find it
good
and
place
do
to
it.
start.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the, there wasn't a separate meeting required.
Right,
At the
right,
beginning
yeah.
of the meeting, the
Right.
board, any director who had a comment made it, some changes were made, the board approved the protocol, and then the interviews proceeded.
Perfect.
It was all one meeting.
Yeah,
Special
yeah,
meeting.
so I'm comfortable proceeding as before.
Yeah.
As before, and if you can dust off the
So
whole protocol,
we,
we would look at as
but
basically.
we would schedule an HR committee meeting.
Right.
The HR committee would look at the protocol, make any changes they might think are appropriate, and then we'll schedule a special meeting for interviews.
Okay,
Yes.
I like that.
Yes. And my encouragement personally would be to go for that, I don't think we're going to get it done next week, that's my opinion.
Well, no, I'm.
But I think the following
Yeah,
week,
the 24th.
it would be possible to get it
25th,
done.
26th.
And then,
Okay.
don't we meet again on the 11th of March?
Well,
Or 12th, I'm sorry. So we could make the decision potentially on the 12th if we don't make it at that special meeting.
but you can make it at the special.
Yes,
Well, we could
correct.
make-
Yeah, we understand that we could do it. We could do it tonight if we want
Yes.
to. Yes.
Correct.
I'm fully aware of that.
Okay, so.
Do you feel like your motion got
Yeah, no, it's
communicated?
exactly what I want.
Okay, cool. Did anybody second it?
Anybody second?
I'll second it.
Phew, what a relief. Could you
No,
read
it's
that
worked-
back,
It worked out
Joanne?
very well, man. You
You'll
guys
have
brought me
that,
to the, that's what I was thinking.
Is everybody feeling comfortable except for Patrick?
Motion to do what we did last time.
That about sums it up.
I thought the motion was dusted
The
off.
last time we did it. Not
Dust it
the
off.
last time we did it this way, not the last time, because last time was different.
How many years of legal training?
Last time we did this way.
And could you take the roll, vote on the dusted off
Yes.
motion?
And staff will second that.
Vice President Michelson?
Yes.
Director Feldman?
Yes,
President Coverdale?
Yes.
so staff will
Thank
set
you
up
very
a-
much.
You'll set up a meeting for the HR committee, and you'll also set up the date that we can,
We'll do those both at once. We'll
Okay.
set up the HR committee meeting and find a
soon,
date
make the
for
HR
them.
committee soon as possible. so
I think
can-
we should target 2 weeks, at least 2
I
weeks
do.
out.
I think
Oh, no, I
that's,
meant the HR committee too.
Yes, we'll do that.
And we should go like the 25th, 26th, or 27th?
We'll shoot for those dates,
Is that good? Okay, for the interviews.
right,
But the HR committee, you can be the speaker.
right.
well, fortunately, I mean, it may be not preference, but we have had an opportunity to interview the two of you, although you haven't had a shot to answer our questions. But hopefully, if you can make it back, and if not, we can also arrange for a phone interview. We've done that in the past as well. So you could phone in if that became more appropriate. Sure,
May I make
Yeah.
a comment?
yeah.
This Saturday morning, for the last 12 years, we go to Seattle for a major National Garden Show, and it's very important for our small farm to be there. And I drive 18 hours home on Monday, the 25th. So I could be here the 26th, 27th, but I need to be up there
Oh, it's good to have you.
selling.
Oh, you got to understand, I think if you're not surviving, you're not useful to us,
Correct, and I won't be able to pay for the water.
We understand about that, yeah. Thank you, John, I really appreciate it, yeah.
Well, it'll be, it'll be 2 weeks from today would be the 26th. I mean, just whatever works. I'll leave it to you guys.
Well, you're going to have a chance to meet in the committee.
Yeah, I
You
know.
can hammer this out, all right?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, and the next item is Coastside County Water District Board of Director Committees. And I was kind of hoping to fill up some committees tonight, but we're going to wait, and I think that's appropriate. I think it's great. What I was going to recommend, or what I would like to see happen, is I don't think we've had a water quality meeting for a long time. I don't think we've had a Water Resources Committee meeting for a long time. These are standing committees, and I personally would like to eliminate those committees. I would like to have the Recycled Water Committee take on those types of activities if they are necessary. But I just don't think we need a standing committee if we're not really active. I think the Finance Committee is incredibly active. I think Human Resources Committee obviously is very active, and I think District Facilities is very active. I think those should be standing committees that are agendized and worked. I think the advisory committees, if we needed suddenly a water quality committee, we could go ahead and add that to the list in a minute. If we needed, we can always vote to put them back on. But I just don't think it's appropriate to have something standing that isn't functional.
I think one of the ways I've seen the committees be used that can be very valuable is a chance to run up the flagpole, as it were, agenda items 2 weeks before the board meeting with a sample group of the board. I don't think that's what we've been doing, and that's neither, it's not good or bad, it's just not how we've been doing it. So if we're not having those meetings, I would agree with you, there's no point in having them as a standing group. So that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think both of those were useful in their time. I know Chris and I spent time when we had quality issues. And also we had the Pilicetos integrated watershed management going on. But things are relatively stable in both those arenas right now, so I'm good.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely fine with that.
But as a member of the Water Quality Committee, I am devoted to sampling the water every single day. And it's been good.
And my coffee.
I want to.
Well, that's an important role.
I want to tell you thanks for your service, and I'd like to thank you guys for your service. And I'd like to thank you for having served on a committee that did great work. So it's not about that.
No,
A lot of water sampling.
It's not
It's
about
what's
that.
present and accounted for as far as what we need to do right now.
Yeah.
The more time is.
So,
for the others.
and we wanted to, CSDA, Director Feldman volunteered to serve on that committee, and continue to serve on it, and so we wanted to add him to the list. I do feel like by reducing the number of committees, it doesn't seem like such an abundance of labor required of each individual director. However, when we have a new director appointed to serve on the board, I would like to figure out how we
Yeah.
share that person in, because I think that's really important. I can't do that as just an act. This has to be voted on, so I would entertain a motion to modify the committees as discussed.
So it's
Do
the
we
one that
want
was given on
to,
the 10th.
wait until we have the board member to do this?
I think we can do this, I think we can do this setup now.
Okay.
So the board action would just be to remove the two standing committees.
And
That's-
put Director Feldman on CSDA.
I don't think that requires a motion.
Okay, well, I'd like to have a motion so it's in the public
I thought it was a president
record.
appointment.
What?
I thought it was a president appointment.
Well, it is, but I wanted to have you guys certify it for me, if you don't mind, publicly.
Got it. Aye.
Is that a motion?
So we have a motion to accept the committee as constituted. To accept the committee structure as discussed with the removal of Water Quality Committee
As a
and
standing.
Water Resources Committee,
Yeah, as standing committees.
as standing committees. To the one that was updated on January 2nd,
And for you to be put on the.
on the CSDA Association External Organization.
Yes, so just want to be clear with the president and his intent. Is it's those three actions, or is it for the board to approve this entire sheet?
Improve the entire
With
sheet with
the-
those changes.
I think
Appointments that you
the
made.
entire sheet,
Okay.
and knowing that it'll be modified when we have the additional director.
Okay, so just as a process point, if you have the full board adopt this sheet, you will then need the full board to amend this sheet.
Correct.
That's different from the past practice, which
What was
is
the past practice?
The past practice was the president makes the appointments, but he's suggesting
I
that the
don't-
board approve the appointments that he's made. If I'm hearing you approve this entire sheet.
We can approve the appointments you made.
So, yeah, I think that would be great.
That's what you want.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
So can we make the motion to approve the appointments he's made and the removal of the two
Yes,
committees?
you could.
Okay? That's the
Aye.
motion.
And you're gonna second
Who's
it?
going to
Sure, I'll
interpret that for me?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, Director Reynolds, Vice President Michelson,
Aye.
Director Feldman.
Yes.
President Coverdell.
Enthusiastically. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I guess we do.
Boy, do we wade through that one. And now,
I hope that was right.
I think we're going to have our special reports. And the first one will be the Assistant General Manager's report. Mary, could you let us know how things are going?
Well, I'm excited to report that in 2019, we'll be going to monthly billing for our residential customers.
Yay!
So.
I don't like it either.
We're doing a pilot with Ocean Colony customers in March and Clipper Ridge in April, and then we'll transition all other residential customers to monthly billing in the fall. So, and Kathleen has done a fantastic job, as usual, for informing the public about the change. We've recently sent out postcards, which you have a copy of, and this week, a constant contact went out to customers. So, so we're getting good feedback in our office about
Are you?
going to monthly billing. Yeah.
Oh, good.
People are more enthused about monthly than bi-monthly.
Mhm.
And that's because they can see their activities more quickly. that they're able to- No, I'm just interested.
I think it's more of just paying your bills monthly. I think,
That's
people
fine.
are, and,
That's fine. So the January, February
Be fine
bill,
with
the last
quarterly.
bi-monthly bill that the Ocean County people will get.
and then,
The next one will be in March, the end of
Right.
March for 1 month. Okay, good.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Anyone else? And now the Superintendent of Operations, Jim.
Good evening again. Pleased to report we had a very productive January. Very good start to the year. We drained, cleaned, and inspected the Cahill tank. Looks very good inside, which is always nice to report. It's not always the case when you look inside a tank that it's looking like it's in good shape. It's set up for cathodic protection. I'm going to talk to Dave and Mary about putting some cathodic protection in it before the coating starts to fail. Replaced a couple of hydrants, about 7.5" and 2" meters. We've got a couple of 2 inches to go. We did some fence repairs at some tank sites. The Alves tank fills off an altitude valve, and we were noticing that it just fills as soon as there's demand for it to fill. So we put a delay pilot on it so it will drop 3 feet and freshen up the water in the tank a little bit. It was a little tricky getting it to finally work, but the treatment staff have been helping with the tanks. We're very tenacious and got it going. It took a Y strainer for some reason on the sensing line. I just thought I'd share that with the directors. We rebuilt the Alves pump station chlorine dosing system. So that looks great. Treatment staff handled that. And we did the annual Nunez water treatment plant tour for Seacrest School. Don't be offended, but they did a little coloring book and put North Coast on it. They're first graders, so I don't think we should criticize the title. So there's great art in here, and I just love what the kids pick up from the tour. So I thought I'd share that with you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Take a look. And we'll leave it on the counter for a few days so you guys can look at the nice art. But it's neat to see a first grader retain
Bless
some
you.
information.
See, the public school kids got that right. They wrote Coastside County Water District.
No comment. And then San Francisco State University Industrial Assessment Center, the School of Engineering staff reached out to me for a free energy audit.
And what did they call the district?
San Francisco State?
No, I mean, if the two schools were you had a third school there, so
I'm
I
on to the
figured-
next item,
All
sorry.
right.
Director Reynolds.
Good job, Jim. Way to stay focused.
Sure, I'm trying. We did an energy audit with San Francisco State University engineering staff. It's a Department of Energy funded program. We were facility number 536. They've been doing this for a long time. They'll do large wastewater plants for SFPUC, wineries, and they basically come in and look for ways you can save money on power. So they put some CT recorders on some of the pumps to see when they're operating, and we'll have a report in a few months. Real nice group of people, and it was nice to have them out. We brought Todd with us, and I'll let you know what the findings are once we get that report. We used all our sources in January. We're currently on the Denison Water Treatment Plant and the wells and Pillarcitos Lake, so Crystal Springs is off for a little bit, I'm happy to say. El Granada 2-inch pipeline replacement project is complete. PG&E transformer, the Denniston pump station is in, the new transformer there. And Pilarcitos PRF valve replacement project is complete. We discovered a leaking 4-inch line there, so it was nice we got in there and got that fixed before we blew the road out. And if you have any questions, I'm here at your pleasure.
Denniston had a little hiccup this weekend, or last weekend.
We've had a lot of hiccups, some related to power
There
outages,
was
some related
Took
to
it
high
down for
turbidity, and
Yeah,
then
that's what
just
it
this
is.
last weekend, we had a SCADA hiccup where SCADA and the PLC,
So they're all repairable and fixed, and
yeah, it's on today.
things are back on track. and that's all.
Yes, thanks for asking.
And then I think you have some kind of a plan to present the monster truck to me on a regular basis, because I saw it again a week ago when you're putting a new hydrant in on Greenbrier.
It's
So
all
that makes 3
coincidence.
times
That's so cool.
in 5 days.
It's all coincidence.
It's all coincidence, not. Okay, just checking. I'm
You
waiting to
could-
see it again.
You could be
Keep
accused
looking.
of stalking the truck.
Yeah, it could be.
That could be
Every
what
time
it
I turn
is.
around, they're sitting there looking at me, I was a panic, I left. And they put a big red booty on the valve.
We just want to make sure you see that we're getting great use out of that vehicle, which we are.
When you look after these big rainstorms, for example, at Denniston, how high is that in the creek bed? Is it really raging through that canyon right now, or?
That's a good question. It's controlled by a new weir that we put on the large spillway.
Uh-huh.
So we'll crack or open that up before the storm so that we don't end up surging the reservoir.
Uh-huh.
And what's interesting is after that last rain event, typically after it rains, the turbidity will climb for several days. And one of the operators was concerned about the event that was happening or going to happen soon and some debris that was behind the slide gate. And he opened it up and just dumped the reservoir and the turbidity recovered quickly.
Wow.
And that was just kind of a random observation that it might have been coincidence, but we think that we might have dumped some of the dirty water, and then we got Denniston back on much quicker.
Wow.
So we're gonna try it again next time, see
Interesting.
what happens.
I think John had a question, if that's all right with everyone. Do you mind
Yeah.
if John asks a question?
Through the chair, may I ask, the Alves tank south of town, correct? Near Moon Ridge, there's a 1,000-gallon, 1,500-gallon piece of equipment sitting out there for many months.
Yes.
What is the status on that? I've had people ask me that live at Moon Ridge.
Right, so good question. That is the temporary bypass tank that we used for the EG3 project. And when it got relocated, it got placed there. I wasn't real thrilled with the location either. It's a little bit of an eyesore. So we're gonna move it up closer to the Alves tank for the Alves tank project. So it'll be closer to the pump house. We're gonna do that in the next month or so.
Okay, thank you.
We just wanna make sure we get it moved to the right spot for the bypassing.
So it's coming in a month or so, it'll get moved? You think it, okay.
Great, thank you very much. Other questions, Ray? Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The storm coming tonight, tomorrow, likely to increase the turbidity again to the point where
It's going to
Yes, it's
increase
gonna be quite a
everything.
rain.
it's gonna shut us down.
And now the
Sometimes
report
after the rain, though.
that I have been just hanging on the cliff edge for. Kathleen, could you give us your
You got the,
water
putting the
resource
pressure on me here.
report?
So we were in a very active weather period, so I thought I would share a very good website that the state hosts, the California Data Exchange Center website, which if you like your weather data, your precipitation, and you like tables and graphs and all the different water basins, it's a great, you could waste a lot of time just flipping through and looking at all the data. So I did some screenshots for you of the charts here. So this is already old. This was from February 5th, and we've already gotten quite a bit more precipitation and snow, so I'm sure it's even better. But it'll show you the highest amount we've gotten on record, the average, and then the lowest, so you can kind of see how it's tracking. So that's what the chart does. On the second page of my report actually has the website, so if you can look at the report online, you could click on it, it'll have a link to the website. But I took a screenshot of the Tuolumne and Merced Rivers Basin, since that's more related to our imported water source, Hetchy. It gives you the data, the most recent data for the snow equivalents in that watershed. So if you like weather information, this is a really good resource for
Great.
you to go to.
I love wasting time on these websites, actually.
Yeah, you can.
Better than kittens.
Oh, come on.
Great, so would you say that we'll be facing any kind of water restrictions this coming year?
No, do not anticipate that. So there's still mandatory water conservation processes going on.
That'll never
So
end.
that's not going away, but as far as mandatory restrictions, asking people to cut back, no. And we'll get our full, I assume we'd get our full allotment from San Francisco with no restrictions.
Great.
And then our local sources should be great. Hopefully, Denniston should hopefully be flowing through the summer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's really great news, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot less stressful.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for always being so enthusiastic at the end of the meeting. I know it's a long wait for you each evening, so thank you.
No problem.
I really appreciate it. Are there other agenda items or director comments?
I was gonna ask the
Yeah,
general manager to remember to think about the strategic session follow-on from the last strategic planning that Glenn and I talked about, looking into the water futures.
yes.
Maybe April sometime. Or like that, because we want the new board member to be involved in that as well, so it shouldn't be before the new guys are involved. But hopefully in that time frame, we can look at, maybe get them up to speed on all that stuff as well. With that, you agree? Is that?
Yep, I
So
do.
would you, that's a, I guess, a long-standing item that you will work to, maybe that would be the time frame. Thank you. That was my request.
The record show my head is nodding.
My pen
I'm
is
worried-
writing.
I'm worried that you've just gotten your beak wet and it keeps going back. And Patrick, would you like to add anything to the?
No.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming all the way from San Francisco. We really appreciate your wisdom and
hopefully
you get
home before the storm.
and caution and careful management of the district affairs. Thank you very much. Thank you to the two members of the general public who
Appreciate it.
I've known as friends and neighbors for a long time. Thank you for coming and throwing your hat in. Really appreciate it. And I would hereby like to adjourn this meeting of the Coastside County Water District Board of Directors. Thank you very much.
Perfect.